we have sort of a tale of two cities in a way. Our economy is actually doing okay in the city of Chicago. We've been the #1 city for new headquarters moving into Chicago for the last 3 years, so very proud of that. At the same time, just as an example of that success, very proud of that. At the same time, of course, we've got too many shootings and so many people that frankly have lost hope, I think, is part of the problem, and a lot of illegal guns that are coming into Chicago. So big problems. The great news is that Chicago's business community, both the traditional community and the digital community, have come together to try and help to solve some of those problems, or at least to address them. We have a long way to go. Wish that we could get some help from the federal government, and instead a lot of rhetoric. But we've got a lot to work on.
And just, is there an example of the business community doing something positive that you can point to?
Well, there are a lot of programs that now have been implemented by lots of the business leaders to improve, for example, after-school programs. We have a hugely problematic state government budget problem. There's been no budget in this state for the last 2 years. So much of what would normally pass for education funding hasn't come through. After-school programs have been cut, social services have been cut, and one of the results of that, of course, is that people are not getting the helping hand that they need. When there are no after-school programs, mischief can abound, so we've got leaders in the business community who've tried to step up to the plate philanthropically to help with that, as well as to try to address the gun problem. But these are not, I don't believe that philanthropy alone can solve the problems. So the cohesion, I think, of the business community coming together and pushing the world of government the right way is helpful, as well as all the activism, I think, to finally get our leaders to come to the right conclusions.
So how do you explain the fact that so many of these headquarters have been being moved to Chicago? It's interesting, as you say, the last 3 years it's been the place where the highest number of new HQs in the country.
Yeah. Well, I think there are a variety of things. One of the best, of course, is that we're probably the best transportation hub in the country. I mean, if you live in Chicago, if your headquarters is in Chicago, you can get virtually anywhere in the United States and back within a day. There's very few other cities where that's true. We've got a burgeoning, and this is maybe the point of our being here on stage, a burgeoning digital economy here. So much talent as well. We've got some of the greatest.
You think that's actually been a factor, has it?
An enormous factor, I can tell you from personal experience. I think you had Jamie from GE Transportation on stage. I heard earlier today, and I think she would tell you that one of the reasons that they moved to Chicago recently was because of the talent pool here, as well as the growth of the startup and digital and technology community here.
So our theme is digital disruption, and to what extent, as you look around the companies here in the Midwest, I mean, have they been digitally disrupted yet? Are they ready for it? Are they leading it?
The answer is, I think every company is a technology company today. If you're not, you're dying or you're dead. And I think the Midwest is sort of an example of a place where, as you know, there are some industries that have been completely disrupted by technology, and others not as much. And I would argue that what's coming, and the thing that we probably have the best shot at being great at here, is the digital, the introduction of digitization into some old line industries that are unique to the Midwest. One of them is, for example, a company that we're invested in called SMS Assist that's here in Chicago. And this is about the grubbiest old line business that you can imagine, but it's also been disrupted. And that's, here's what the company does. Basically, if you've got a retail store, or more importantly, thousands of retail stores that you've got to manage all the facilities maintenance services for, so that's maybe 45 different services: floor care, window washing, lawn care, et cetera. Those are things that if you've got thousands of stores, And those are all provided, by the way, those services by local affiliates, local providers. Think about the number of your vendors that you're sending your bills, as well as that you've got to make sure actually did the service and are doing it, optimizing it and doing it well. So SMS Assist, essentially, because of the platform technology that it provides, by the way, there are no mops or plow trucks or anything that SMS does. But what SMS does is optimizes for the affiliates, those small businesses, the number of jobs that they can do in a day. So just like Uber, being able to provide density for those service providers means that you could, for example, cut costs for the service providers as well as for their customers. You could do, let's say, you could plow 10 parking lots in a day rather than just 7. If you just had density for the number of places within a certain mile radius. And so all those savings that come from optimization go to the benefit of those customers. There are 20,000+ affiliates that are on the platform. And the result of that is, think about I think Walmart spends something close to $2 billion a year just on facilities maintenance. And a company like SMS, because of its optimization, can save maybe 10% of the budget for Walmart, so $200 million. That's not chump change.
So give us a sense of why you think this is the moment where those companies that have been able to survive so far without really being disrupted, what's going on now that makes them?
I'm not sure it's the moment as much as it is the place that we're in. I mean, we're in the Rust Belt. I hate that term because I don't think it's true anymore. But the idea that we have a lot of middle market manufacturing, a lot of those kind of old line services that get provided out of the Midwest. And much of digitization has not really hit much of the economy in the United States like that. So Chicago has become sort of a test bed for the digitization that's occurred in so many other industries to come into those. Now, that's not to say that companies like GE aren't trying to be on the cutting edge. That's true. But if you're a middle market company like the Starbucks coffee sleeve company, or like a service provider doing lawn care, et cetera, the idea that you can optimize your business with digital technology, nobody's really gone after those markets, or at least now they're going after those markets, and the Midwest is the best place for that. And so again, optimizing, I think profitability is rising as a result for those middle market companies.
I mean, I suppose the challenge that you hear about with a lot of companies like that, you would think they would be ripe for being taken on by an outsider from Silicon Valley that, is just going to not have any of those legacy problems.
Except that you need industry expertise, in my opinion. You can't go after the facilities maintenance industry just because you know how to build a software as a service platform. You actually need to know the industry itself in order to write the code the right way, in order to solve the problems that are really existing among the customers of those service providers. So from my perspective, we've got lots of industry expertise across those traditional industries in the Midwest. And so when you combine that with the fact that we're producing more engineers out of the University of Illinois and Northwestern and U of C and IIT than all of the top 5 engineering programs in the country combined. So let me say that again. The University of Illinois alone, in fact, provides more engineers out of its program than all of the top 4 out of 5 engineering programs in the country. Add to that Northwestern, U of C, IIT, et cetera. I mean, we've got a ton of really excellent technologists, let's say, that come out of these universities, as well as the entrepreneurship and business programs at U of C and Northwestern. And when you add all that together, I mean, there's, we don't need to import Silicon Valley types to Chicago. We're growing them right here. What we had a problem with until the last few years is the exporting of that talent. Mark Andreessen went to the University of Illinois. YouTube was invented by somebody from who was educated here in Illinois. These are
And you feel that export has stopped, the brain drain has stopped?
stop isn't the right, because we produce a lot of talent. So obviously we're getting poached everywhere, our talent. But I would say we've stanched the outflow by a good deal. And people see Chicago now as a place where you could start a company and where you could find, what do you know, we're the second biggest region for Fortune 500 companies. So if you want to go, be a CIO or be, in the technology world at one of the larger companies, whether it's United Airlines or Boeing or Hyatt or whatever, those are here too. But if you want to start a company, if you are an entrepreneurial engineer and you want to start a company, now because of 1871, because of all the development of technology and all the great companies like CleverSafe and Orbitz and et cetera that have come out of, and we've had lots of them in the last 4 or 5 years, you now know you can start a company in Chicago and succeed.
So what are the digital opportunities, whether they be startups or mature companies, that you are investing in now that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, and so I mean so for our venture group, and that's kind of where my heart always lies first and foremost, because it was my first business that I started. We're focused on digital health, for example. We think, and particularly with all the healthcare that we've got in the Midwest here, and particularly in the Chicago area, all the big companies here, Baxter and Abbott, AbbVie, and the rest, and all the great hospitals, Northwestern Memorial Hospital and U of C, et cetera. So digital health, of course, is a terrific burgeoning arena for the Chicago area. You'd see, interestingly, AI and IoT are also really important technologies that are being developed here. Nanotechnology at Northwestern University, Chad Merkin, who's one of the great nanotechnologists in the country and has won major international prizes, national prizes. So we've looked for great companies that are coming out of Chicago that are in those arenas and have found some real success in it.
And are there any questions from the audience that anyone like to probe JB a bit more? There's anyone? Okay, well, I will leave you to think a bit more while we carry on the conversation. So, I mean, in terms of you were involved very much in trying to recruit these big companies.
Yeah.
To the headquarters that came back to Chicago or came to Chicago for the first time. What did you find were the cities that you were competing with most aggressively? Well, where did the technology angle really play in that?
Yeah, what's interesting is there are lower tax places for people to move, but one of the reasons that people would choose Chicago is because, one, I think there's a cohesive business community, so there's a real, camaraderie and a real sense that you can work with all the other major companies here. That's one. A second is we have the talent, and I talked about it earlier. You just, having these amazing top 10 universities like U of C and Northwestern, and a top engineering school like the one at Northwestern, but also the one, of course, at University of Illinois. Having an amazing amount of technology talent that comes out of IIT. I keep referring to the technology because all of the big companies get that if they're not on top of this, they're going to get disrupted. I think the other part of it, and then maybe this is one reason why I keep getting invited to sort of help sell in this, because I don't have an official role in any way, is that I've been very involved in the startup community here, and many of the big companies, the smartest ones, get that what you want to do is partner with startups. You want to, the best entrepreneurs don't go into big companies. The best engineers, frankly, sometimes don't choose the biggest companies. And so at least the more entrepreneurial engineers will tend to choose a startup. And so you've got these great, unbelievably disruptive, small startup companies that are getting going all over the Midwest, and particularly here in Chicago. And the big companies want to poach. And that's the smart thing. What they really want to, it's not poaching the people. They want to poach the whole company, or they want to poach the technology, or they want to partner with those startups, which is the smartest thing you can do. because they're not going to disrupt you then. They're going to be part of your solution. And if it works, you become an acquirer. If you're a large company, you become acquirer of that startup. And and also you're helping to build the ecosystem. It's not a gift, you're doing it for your own benefit. But the digital ecosystem in Chicago has benefited heartily by the fact that those big companies want to work with these entrepreneurs. Because imagine you're starting a company, and a company even like Walgreens, let's say, or GE Transportation, which just moved into town, is willing to partner with you in the development of your technology, or is willing to be your first customer. I mean, there's no better validation than working with a big company like GE Transportation.
I mean, is there a danger that what you're going to see emerge is this sort of vibrant startup scene, and then the big companies partnering with them, poaching from them, but the large sort of Mittelstand, the small, medium companies basically still don't really connect with that ecosystem?
No, because I think one of the things, I was going to point at the Starbucks coffee sleeve, but I mean, one of the middle market companies, one of the big benefits that you've got just being in this ecosystem is they get, the smart ones, and most of them are, get that it's time. It's time to bring technology in to make sure that you're optimizing. You are competing. There are other people that make coffee sleeves in the world. You are competing, and so you've got to keep up with technology. I don't think it's just big companies and tiny companies that are getting together. It's all over the place. Almost everybody, and we have 11 middle market companies that we own and operate. We everything from the boats on Navy Pier, if you've been on the Odyssey or the Spirit of Chicago or Mystic Blue or the Sea Dogs. That's the largest dinner cruise and tourist boat operation in the country. And we've had to bring technology in there. That's a middle market company, to make sure that we're serving the way you want to be served, whether you're on the boat or whether you're trying to make a reservation. We've got to use the best technology to interact with you. I would say the other thing that we brought to many of our middle market companies is that the same kind of interface that you're using on your consumer apps is the same interface that we all want to use in business too. So even in a B2B context, being able to have the right kind of user interface and making it easy for people. I'll give you an example. We have a company that's the second largest pallet rental company in the country. So if you go to Costco or places like that, you'll see blue pallets. Those are the competitor. Don't use any of those. Or red pallets. Those are ours. The red pallets, we run that on a system that our consumer packaged goods company customers are using every day, right? They stare at this screen every day. They order the number of pallets at the right factory at the right time so that their goods get sent to a Costco or a Safeway or wherever it gets sent. And that interface needs to be, the most up-to-date, easy to use. That's what people really want, and our customers choose us for that reason.
And you mentioned the universities here and how that is also, a magnet to, attract companies here and so forth. To what extent, again, do you think you're making the most of that asset base in terms of helping the small and medium firms in the area?
Making the most of what?
The universities.
Mm-hmm. If you're a company thinking about moving into a city or a larger, medium-sized company, you want to know that there's an educated workforce, because it's not just the people that you're moving with you. You're going to have to hire people in that. And if you intend to be there for a long time, which most companies that are going to spend the money to move do, you want to know that there's a continual, inflow and production of these really great, talented people. So, I don't think it's lost on anybody about Chicago or about Illinois, because we've got great universities across the state. But, I don't think it's lost on anybody that, we're producing great talent in the state. We have an educated and, importantly, and I don't know how many people are not from the Midwest, but we also have an incredibly dedicated workforce. Like people don't switch jobs as often in the Midwest. They're also, the productivity out of people who work in the Midwest is higher than it is in other places in the country. So there's a ton that's attractive about university educated, college educated, or frankly just talented people in the workforce in Illinois. I think that is attractive to companies. I mean, listen, we do have challenges in Illinois, and yet we still are able to attract good companies here.
And you have this thing called the M Hub here as well. Just talk a bit about that.
Say again.
The M Hub you have here.
M Hub, yeah. So I mean, M Hub is yet another. It's a manufacturing technology hub. It helps manufacturers sort of develop their next great product. M Hub is sort of like if you've seen 1871 or if you've seen UI Labs or any of the other kind of area, technology and product development areas in Chicago. M Hub is the latest of those. I think that's sort of an example of Chicago is not the center of the Rust Belt. Chicago is now the center of the country, and as I've heard others say, the capital of the center of the nation. So I think that's the spreading of these kind of progressive hubs of development. I think is somewhat new over the last 7 or so years, but it's increasing.
And just to finish, I mean, what's the biggest challenge as you try and persuade companies in your portfolio, or you look at companies that you might invest in? What's the biggest challenge you face in getting them to embrace this digital opportunity challenge?
Yeah, it's hard for people to say, I'm going to adopt something that could disrupt me. I mean, that's just a hard thing to do. But it doesn't, I mean, truly, if you adopt it, it's not disruptive, it's now a catalyst for your business. So I think that's the challenge, particularly in middle market companies where, there's a kind of a way of thinking that's maybe persisted for 20 or 30 years in a company that's made them successful, but they're, a bit afraid of change. I think that that's the challenge, right? Change. I mean, change is hard, and so when we acquire companies or build companies that are not technology oriented and need to bring technology in, sometimes you need new people in the company, not changing out the people that are there, but more adding talent, and then everybody needs to have a new way of thinking. So. Again, remember that a pallet rental company is not just wood and nails with stuff on top of it. It's undergirded by logistics technology that allows us to get the pallets where they need to be on time and make sure that we're serving our customers in exactly the way that they want, that the right number of pallets arrive at the right factory at the right time and get delivered to the customers and then get picked up and serviced at the right time. Those are all technically difficult things. We have to evolve as time goes on.
Does that require a lot of investment to get to that point?
It does. I mean, I think we're continually upgrading our technology. We're continually trying to plug into everybody's systems to make sure that it works well with our customers. And we've got some of the biggest customers in the world, Kraft Heinz and Mars and others. And this is a middle market company that's serving them. And so we've got to keep up with them. But honestly, if we do it, because they're typically not doing as much investment in their logistics for pallets and so on as we are, they're relying on us to do that. If we do that well, we get margin and we succeed.